Okay, welcome to week 3 of this class. Today we're going to talk about photo editing. Now, there's a lot out there that you can do with photo editing. For the purposes of this class and for our week that we're spending on it, I didn't want to overwhelm you with photo editing. So it's really basic. You're going to perform 3 different ways of editing on pictures. So let's kind of go through this week. So if we click on our overview and readings, it's really looking on editing photos. Now these techniques and skills are going to be ones that you're going to continue to use throughout the rest of this semester. And there'll be several opportunities in other projects to be using photos, and often you need to know how to crop and change photos and edit them in various ways. So over a week, again, you need to know how to do it. I do have a list of some photo editing suggestions for programs. There are so many different ones out there. Most computers and phones come standard with some very basic photo editing programs. For the purposes of this class, those are just fine to use. I usually use photo editing that is just on my laptop. Um, Paint, which is pretty much standard on everybody's computer. You can use that to do very simple photo editing. Several of the videos that you'll watch, as well as the readings that you'll have for this week, also suggest some other programs. That's just fine. Again, if you have access to Photoshop, you are more than welcome to use Photoshop. I don't care what program you use to edit. I just want you to edit them. So you really have a very open-ended here opportunity to edit photos in whatever kind of programs and apps that you want to use. But I have given you some suggestions because I find that some people are like, but I don't know what to use. Well, here you go. Google also has, if you have the app on your phone for Google Pictures, there's also an editing feature within that, or you can download that onto your laptop or onto your desktop as well. So this week, everyone's going to read. There's a video overview of editing photos, and then there is a reading about copyright of images. So if you choose not to use your own photos, which is fine, and you want to use images that you find online, you do need to be aware of some of the copyright issues of what you can use and what you cannot use. And I'm going to show you in just a moment how to do a search in Google Images to find those images that are free for use. A lot of times people use the same stock images over and over and over again, but there's actually quite a few options out there for images and free use of images, way beyond just your general generic stock photos. So you will have 3 different projects that you will be doing with photo editing due on Sunday. The first one is you're going to be cropping and resizing photos. Often in cropping, when you crop a photo, you're really focusing in on just one specific piece of that photo, and you're getting rid of extra space. And I'll give you some examples in a moment. Your second photo editing project is you're going to work on the contrasting colors and work on making sure that you improve that. The third one is we're looking at color saturation and how do you bring in more light and brightness and saturate the color. Now, one thing I should add on this one, last semester when I taught this, I had several people who turned in assignments where when they did more color saturation or they really worked on the contrast, it actually made the photo look worse. So I would like to suggest to you not making it look worse. You're trying to improve the photo. And I will give you some examples here in just a moment of ways to improve it following these three things. Now, again, it's up to you what photos you want to use, and it's up to you what apps or programs you want to use to do it. Okay, so really anything that will do basic editing is just fine for these requirements. I do want to see the original, and I do want to see what you did to change it, and I do want a paragraph write-up. This is an English class, and so here's your English moment. You got to write a little bit. So let's talk a little bit about imaging editing. So very basic as first as cropping an image. So here's an example of a cropped image. Originally the butterfly, you wrote all the ground around it, but really that by cropping it, we just really are focusing much more into the details of that butterfly. Often that'll happen on a crop photo, is that you crop people out of a photo, or you crop, this is all kind of wasted white space ground around here, and you're getting rid of that, and you're really focusing in on what you want to focus on. So that's really the reason for cropping. Cropping is perhaps the most basic photo editing that's out there, but often can be extremely useful. If you want to know nothing else about photo editing, cropping would be where you want to start, because that you can really do a lot by cropping photos. Here's another example of these Chinese lanterns. This person just wanted these here on the left, and so they cropped it, and there you go. There's their image. This specific article, which is one of the required readings, uses something called Pixel X, which is a free program that you can use to edit. You're welcome to use that. But again, there are hundreds, thousands of options out there for editing. Often, if you look on your laptop or your phone, you'll find that there's already editing programs that you can go ahead and use. Anyway, so it's saying how to do it here, that Photoshop as well. If you edit, you can do put a grid on it, and so then you make everything nicely symmetrical, etc. Okay, resizing is nice, as if you are attaching an email, or I don't know how many of you have downloaded photos before off the internet and then use them in PowerPoint presentations. I just gave a presentation a couple weeks ago at a conference, and I downloaded some images and I went to blow them up, and they pixelated, right? Kind of like last week's pixel art. They pixelated, and I was like, no! Resizing is an important thing to know as well. How do you resize it so that it doesn't pixelate as it gets bigger? So this will talk you through how to do that, so that it's not, when it's big, right, it goes blurry here. So resizing it, most photo editing have some, you can click that, you can arrange it, you can resize it, and so it keeps so it doesn't pixelate as it gets. So you're preserving that aspect ratio. Again, here's like a building. This often is what we do, and we just try to freehand it as opposed to going in and actually resizing it, where you have like too narrow, or it got long and squishy, right? Again, this is often what people do without really thinking about the importance of resizing. Most programs out there will resize for you. Rotating, okay, I'm not asking you to do that. Okay. So one of the other things I'm asking you to do is adjusting the brightness. This can also reduce shadows. So as you see these 2 plates of cookies, which plate of cookies would you rather eat? I don't know about you, but that one on the right looks much more yummy than this one on the left. And why is it? It's because this person has made the cookies much brighter. And when things usually get brighter, they can become much more appealing. Now, one thing to be careful of, if you are doing people and you make people brighter, often it will wash out their face. I had a couple of students last semester in their projects where they made everything brighter, and then it's like you couldn't see any individual faces, which apparently, according to some of the students, was just fine because they didn't like those people anyway. But you do want to make sure that if you are adjusting the brightness and making it brighter, that it's not washing it out so that you can't even see details, that it's improving the look of the photo. And in this case, I believe this person is using Photoshop, but again, they're all the apps are very similar on that one. And there's ways to increase that brightness. Now, color saturation would be like this, right? Again, which one would you rather eat? Bowl of corn there. I would absolutely go, well, any of them really, but I really like corn. So there we go. Would go to this one on the right? Because it's much brighter. There's a much higher color saturation. Now, sometimes with color saturation, what will happen is that everything around, maybe you have a central image that you really want to highlight it, so you really saturate the color, and then everything else around it will still stay vague. So instead of, in this case, they made all these other vegetables really bright as well, but they could have kept them low saturation and just color saturated the corn, and then your eyes are really drawn to that corn. Sometimes you'll see that where you really want somebody to stick out from the background, so you'll saturate that person or that object and keep the rest of the background more dull, so that the color saturation really stands out. So that's what you're doing with saturation. There's a lot of times with nature pictures, you'll see like the flower in the center will be have the color saturation, and everything around it will be much more dull. Again, it really makes it pop, stand out in that photo. Okay, contrast is this. So you can see here low contrast. So all these, yes, there's different colors, but everything kind of blurs into one another. And then high contrast. So then we've got this brown contrasted against the white, contrasted against the blue and the yellow, contrasted against white on white. So you've got more shadows here. So it's, again, making things stand out in a photo by having a much stronger contrast in colors. So you'll be doing that as one of the projects. Okay. Let me go back here and just make sure I covered all three that I was planning on covering. Yes. Now on images, again, if you're welcome to use your own images. If you don't want to use your own images, you can use Google Images. So here I am on Google Images. I'm going to do a search on Google Images, which is going to bring me to, come on. Oh, come on, Google Images. Okay, well, I'll just do this. I'll do a flower. Now, what I can do is I can go into settings and I can go into advanced search. And as I go down here on advanced search, there's, a lot. As I get here, I've got file type. So if I only want JPEG files, for example, then there, or if I only want PNG, etc., maybe I only want JPEG on that one. And then usage rights, Creative Commons license or commercial and other licenses. Either one of those will give you the ones that you can use. So if I click advanced search, then all of these that I have here are ones that I can use that are free for me to use in my art, that I don't have to pay for and I don't have to get a license for, etc. So that's one really nice way of finding images. I could find all sorts of different things. I mean, I could do mountains. And again, I've got ones that I can use that I don't have to. Let me just double check on that one. Oh, it went back to it. Okay, so I can go to Creative Commons license as well. It means that I can use it for my own purposes. We see here the Creative Commons license, right, color, and there's a lot of different things I can search for in images, but that means that if I wanted to use any of these in what I'm doing, I could easily do that. So color saturation, for example, if I wanted to choose that one, for instance, I could color saturate this person. I could crop, maybe I just want the mountain, I don't want the person. I could crop that, or I could work on my contrasting colors. For this photo editing, you are welcome to use 3 different photos. You're welcome to use the same one. It is really up to you. If you can't tell by now, but I really just want you to have experience trying these new ideas. Now, some of you maybe are like, well, this is relatively easy. Great. That's wonderful. You've had experience doing it. I want to give everybody an experience to work on basic photo editing skills because they're so important to have. And you do need them on other projects that we're going to be working on throughout this semester. So if this is really easy for you, great. You are also welcome to, if you already know how to do all these and you're good to go, if you want to do more complex photo editing, you are welcome to do that as well. Really the purpose of this class is I want you to experience and try some new ideas. And whether they're new ideas to you or not is obviously dependent upon your background and experience. But that's a goal for this week. And please let me know again if you have any questions or concerns. It's really up to you what photo editing you use. Most of the basic photo editing will include all of these, the ability to do these 3 different projects. So thanks so much, everyone.